Welcome everyone, I'm Summer Bock, and this is Guts and Glory. So I get a lot of questions in email, so we're gonna make it easier, and I'm gonna do these frequently asked question videos from time to time for you guys so that you can get some answers to your great questions that you send in. So this one's from Lucy Hewitt, and she says, I saw in today's email a recipe on sauerkraut that you don't recommend using a starter culture, only the cabbage and salt. Why not? Even Dr. Mercola has talked about the huge benefits of starter culture. Not only will you get more volume and kinds of microbes you're looking for, you're also going to get the vitamin K2. Okay, Lucy, this is a fantastic question, and it's actually like a really highly controversial topic in a lot of ways. What I have found through all my research, and this includes like looking up, Dr. Mercola's ingredients for his starter culture and looking up any of like lab testing that he's done on this. And what I have found is that the labs as well as the information about K2, his starter culture, there is no indication whatsoever that any K2 would form in sauerkraut. Vitamin K2 is more often found in dairy ferments, and the probiotics present in sauerkraut or even in his culture are not the kinds that are going to produce or convert vitamin K2. So I don't really honestly believe his claim. I mean, he would, if I'm willing to be proven wrong, but he has not given any information that shows that that's possible, as well as the fact that the research I've uncovered shows that none of those probiotics in his starter culture have the ability to even make K2. So I'm a little confused about why he's making that claim, to be quite honest with you. It's very confusing. Secondly, I wanted to just talk about why I don't prefer a starter culture, just besides the vitamin K2 issue. And that's the fact that I find that you make a much tastier fermented vegetable product when you don't use starter cultures. Starter cultures add probiotics that are at the end result of the fermentation process. At the very end, there's no need to add these at the beginning. It just messes with the whole flow. It changes the taste. It makes it not last as long in the fridge. And I just find that you're going to have a much higher quality product if you do it the traditional way. There's also something called back slopping, where you take some of the brine from a previous batch and you throw it into the new batch. No, when I was working at my gourmet sauerkraut company, we tried doing that a few times, and the second that we stopped having any of our batches of kraut go bad. So we actually think it was contaminating it. All right, so there are a couple times when I would recommend possibly using a starter culture. One is if you're dealing with a salt intolerance issue where you can't have salt for some sort of major health condition. This is very few health conditions. And in which case you want to probably have the addition of a starter culture to help make your product last longer, because it's hard to make sauerkraut without salt. It just is. It doesn't last more than a week usually. And then the second reason would be a dysbiosis in somebody where they're actually really reactive to probiotics. So when in my healing journey, I really struggled. Like I ate fermented foods for a long time as part of my big journey to being recovered through healing my gut. It was a huge part of it. But then it was really bizarre because I actually developed an intolerance where I was having histamine reactions, allergic reactions when I would eat fermented foods and probiotics. So I had to lay off for a while until I was able to completely heal my gut, and at which point I could bring them back in. So for people who are struggling with dysbiosis in a way where they're having reactivity to sauerkraut or other fermented veggies like kimchi, in that case, a starter culture may work for you. I know that Donna Gates at the Body Ecology Diet, she makes a starter culture that has a lot of Lactobacillus plantarum, which is supposed to have some help with keeping the histamine levels down. So there you go. That's kind of like the only exceptions. But other than that, no, I don't recommend a starter culture. I don't think it tastes as good. I don't think it makes as good of a product. And just like when you have a forest fire, okay, so like if in nature, fermented foods is nature. I mean, this is very much, we're just like creating a little anaerobic environment and letting nature take its course when we don't add a starter culture. So in nature, when there's a forest fire, you basically destroy all the whole forest, right? What grows next? Wildflowers, weeds, and then shrubs, and then like a little bit bigger shrubs, and then the trees start growing. And then when the trees grow and they get tall enough, they build up a thick enough canopy, all that other stuff from the previous successions actually die off. This is exactly what happens when you're making sauerkraut and fermented veggies. You actually start out with these very specific bacteria, like the Leuconostoc mesenteroides. That's how I say it. Some people say it differently, I know. That's the first bacteria in the succession, and it comes along and it starts growing and proliferating. And it's actually a little bit acid intolerant. So the lower the pH goes, eventually it dies off, and some of the other successions of bacteria come along and grow and take that place. And then finally, in the final result of sauerkraut and fermented veggies and kimchi, you have some very healthy probiotics that are fantastic for you. And there was no need to add anything to the beginning for that to happen. So there you go. I hope that helps. Thanks again, Lucy, for your question. All right, everyone, this is Summer Bock signing out.